Okay, so I've read Citrus, I've read Bloom Into You, I've watched their anime adaptations, and I also am #1 fan in the Symphogear fan club. So, I'm really big on this Yuri thing, and honestly, who wouldn't be? Yuri could easily be used as a carbon-based gas to propel futuristic spaceships to planets of the future. That's how much I believe in it. And yet I feel really sad. Why? Because it wasn't until HIDIVE posted about this anime being added to their catalog that I ever even realized this even existed. So now I feel bad. But to make up for it, I'm going to talk about Kase-San and Morning Glories and give my review of the anime. Also, great timing on HIDIVE's part. If they did this a month ago, you could have used my promo code to get 1 month free of HIDIVE to watch this. But alas, it was not meant to be. Although hit me up again later, HIDIVE. You know I miss you. Smooch smooch. Anyways, moving way along from that, Kase-San and Morning Glories, for the uninitiated, is a 1-hour OVA from director Takuya Sato released in 2018 from the studio whatever. You may know Sato for being the chief director to the series Steins Gate and as well the director for the Selector and Factor series, which will be featured in an upcoming video on this channel later this month. The anime follows the 2 female leads, the athletic Tomoka Kase and the sweet and kind Yui Yamada. In this OVA, we follow their journey as a couple in the awkwardness of teenage love. How fun. It's essentially a romance story we've seen all the time before. Nostalgic and sweet, but Kase-San and Morning Glories puts its own twist on the genre, or rather an old twist, but with a different way of implementing them. Firstly, the story is incredibly wholesome and sweet. This is something that, to me, makes Kase-San and Morning Glory stand out amongst the other Yuri anime out there like Citrus and Bloom Into You. Yes, I keep bringing those two up, they're the most popular examples. Citrus goes for a totally and tonally different approach to basically everything. I mean, we have May, who is essentially a walking and talking sexual harassment lawsuit in Citrus, plus, the fact it goes into the whole incest thing. And then you have Bloom Into You, which is wholesome and likely the most similar to this anime in terms of execution and presentation, but ultimately is more story and character driven, focusing on developing both Yu and Nanami as separate people with their own issues that they have to overcome so that they can bloom into each other. That's pretty good. I'm probably missing some more famous Yuri anime out there. Hell, I know I am. So if I missed any, give me a hand in the comments section. But Kase-San and Morning Glories goes way into the wholesome stuff and has a more slice-of-life approach to the story, in my opinion. In fact, watching this anime, I was quite surprised with how much they really leaned on the slice-of-life elements. It honestly feels more like a collection of slice-of-life scenes playing out over the span of 60 minutes than it does a proper romance OVA at times. And the fact that it feels like a collection of scenes really is not unexpected to readers of the manga. Talking to some people in my Discord server, links are in the description, so you should definitely join. They cut quite a bit of content from the manga, so some key scenes as well were never adapted to the final cut of this OVA. But I think that may have served a purpose here to make these more wholesome and slice-of-life elements stick out more, as going off word of those same people in my Discord, the manga apparently got really spicy, which is literally the word they all use to describe it. It was weird that they all use that same word. And it's not like we don't see some of those spicy moments, but that's not important. What is, though, is that Kase-San and Morning Glories is going for a certain kind of presentation, which makes the OVA stand out really well. And it doesn't hurt when your characters are the cutest, most adorable things. Let's first take as an example Yui Yamada, who is just so expressive. I mean, you just want to gobble her up. Look at how she's adorable she is. I love her character a lot in this. She's pretty much this really sweet girl who fell in love with Kase and just wants to be with her and be happy. She's very frank about this as well, which is nice to see from her character. There isn't much of an issue or any kind of well, I'm a girl, so blah blah blah. Nah, Yamada goes ham, okay? She sees what she wants and she takes it. It's nice to see from a character like this, as with these timid kinds of characters, they typically get them being extremely apprehensive and just artificially lengthening their arcs or their stories, and in the process they become kind of dull. This is one of the many reasons Yamada is so damn good and so compelling. This one trait doesn't overcome her whole personality. Though I will say that her having that trait is something that is taken advantage of rather well. I don't want to spoil much for this OVA as this is a video to try and get you, the viewer, to watch the anime, but I will give you a hint. There is a scene where Kase-San goes to Yamada's house and they eat some cakes in her room. This scene is an example of why Yamada's most obvious traits work really well for her character, and as well as being a great example of the awkwardness of liking someone at that age can bring. And with that awkwardness, how a little bit of humor can come from it, which brings up her love for Kase and how cute their relationship really is. Yamada really likes Kase-san a lot, and it shows when, in one scene, Kase-san calls Yamada and she gets flustered and practically starts bouncing off the walls. It's an endearing moment for the character of Yamada and shows how well thought out the writing for this character was. There was an obvious clear vision of Yamada, and because of this she comes off as a really well developed character. But as well, you have these subtle little things that you may notice or may have not. Yamada's facial reactions to Kase-san are practically priceless and show off how well the animation and art are produced, but this only serves to show how wholesome and innocent the anime really is. But nothing's more wholesome than Tomoka Kase, our titular character. She is probably my favorite out of the two, as her character, whether intentionally or not, just stands out a little bit more than Yamada. And where Yamada is this cute small girl, Kase-san is this athletic, really tall girl. Visually, I like the dynamic between this just blonde, small girl who likes planning things, and then this tall, dark-haired, athletic person who could probably do all of the sports things. You best believe. I like how flustered Kase gets when Yamada tells Kase that she's the first person she's ever dated. Her face just turns red, and it's just a funny scene. This is actually something of a regular occurrence with Kase. She seems to be the cool-headed type, usually. I mean, she looks more mature, so that would usually signal to the viewer that she's just that, a little more mature. And while she is generally speaking, she's just as awkward as Yamada when it comes to their relationship. But more often than not, Kase tries to push their relationship forward sometimes, and her success rate is rather funny to think about. Many times something will get interrupted, and then she'll get embarrassed, or she even succeeds. It all just depends. I'll leave it to you to find out, really. But I mentioned earlier the animation and art, and I want to touch back on that. Zex is a studio I haven't really heard of before this OVA. I know they did adaptations for Funiwamu and Akuno Hana. The latter I refused to watch, but I did watch Funiwamu. I'm pronouncing that wrong probably. But I was blown away by what they presented here. The art is clean and crisp, simple and effective. It's so good. It reminded me a lot of A Silent Voice, which isn't something I say very much. The character designs were so well done, and rightfully so. There was only 3 characters in this OVA to focus on after all. They both have their distinct visual traits, which fit their personalities, but it's the animation that really drives it home how good this OVA really is at those kinds of things. Little things like the way characters move, expressions, and even really small things like Yamada's legs falling to her bed after talking to Kase. The anime has weight to its animation, and you can feel it because the anime does such a great job at animating movement and the way Yamada holds onto her pillow and looks at her phone with a really excited and longing expression are all examples of this. And like most romance anime with this kind of setting, the animation is usually amped up a bit for good reason. All of the focus is on these characters, and it's up to the studio to do the best job it can at making them feel the most human they can. Kase-san in Morning Glories nails this perfectly and gives you an anime full of beautiful art and expressive characters, but not overly expressive to take you out of the experience. I believe that if you're a fan of the citruses, the bloom and TUs, or you're just, you want to explore something a little different and nostalgic, then this anime is a great choice for a quick watch. It's just an OVA that's 60 minutes in length, so you can get in and out pretty quickly. Plus it's available on HiDive, which is a really good streaming platform. Full disclosure, I was given a box set by them to give away, and as well, had my own promo code on their site. But even so, I've always been a subscriber of HiDive, way back when they had their 2 to 3 tiers you could subscribe to. But I am digressing. Kase-San and Morning Glories to me is a must-watch for fans of romance or yuri, and is a really sweet and wholesome anime that is worth your time. Comment below your thoughts on Kase-San and Morning Glories if you've already watched it, or if it's piqued your interest. Also, before I leave, I want to point you guys towards a podcast I did on Saturday with my King of Anime podcast co-host, Everything Animated. We talked about on his channel the Bunny Girl Senpai movie, which was released last year. If you didn't know, a couple of years ago, me and EA did a whole podcast on the Bunny Girl Senpai TV series, covering every episode. Well, Saturday was the final episode of the podcast with our spoiler cast on the Bunny Girl Senpai movie. So if that interests you, then please head down to the description below to find a link to that podcast. And before you go, make sure to click like on this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a community tab post or a video, and as well, know that on Patreon I have a $1 tier which gives you access to everything. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.